In 1961, a group of courageous men and women boarded buses heading deep into the segregated South. They were black and white, young and old, united by a common goal: to challenge the brutal system of racial segregation in America. These were the Freedom Riders. The Freedom Riders were inspired by earlier efforts to desegregate transportation, most notably the Journey of Reconciliation in 1947, organized by the Congress of Racial Equality. However, the Freedom Riders campaign sprung from a particular moment in history. The Supreme Court had just ruled in Boynton v. Virginia, 1960, that segregated seating on buses crossing state lines went against the Constitution. Even after this legal win, many southern states kept enforcing segregation, ignoring federal law. The Freedom Riders, a group of black and white activists, decided to test the federal government's commitment to civil rights in 1961. By riding together in mixed racial groups on buses traveling from Washington, D.C. to the Deep South, they wanted to expose the federal government's failure to enforce the Supreme Court's rulings against segregation. On the 4th of May 1961, the first group of 13 Freedom Riders set out from Washington, D.C. on a Greyhound bus bound for New Orleans. The group included 7 black Americans and 6 white individuals. They had a simple but dangerous plan: to use white restrooms and lunch counters during their trip. As they traveled further into the South, they faced violent opposition. In Anniston, Alabama, one of the buses was firebombed. As the riders escaped the flames, they were brutally beaten. In Birmingham and Montgomery, Alabama, the riders were savagely attacked by angry crowds, while local law enforcement turned a blind eye, or worse, collaborated with the attackers. The violence against the Freedom Riders drew national attention and forced the Kennedy administration to take action. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy was initially reluctant to intervene, but he later sent federal marshals to keep the riders safe and pushed the Interstate Commerce Commission to enforce tougher rules on desegregation. Despite the brutal violence and death threats, the Freedom Riders stood firm in their mission. The courage of the first group inspired more volunteers to join the movement. During the summer of 1961, over 400 Freedom Riders took part in the campaign. They faced arrests, beatings, and jail time. Their dedication exposed the deep racial hatred in the South. The Freedom Riders played a key role in urging the federal government to take a more active stance in protecting civil rights. Their efforts led the ICC to issue new rules in September 1961 that banned segregation in interstate transit terminals. Their bravery and sacrifice were vital to energizing the wider civil rights movement and laid the groundwork for future laws, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Their actions challenged the status quo and showed how powerful nonviolent protest and civil disobedience could be in bringing about social change. The Freedom Riders left a legacy of dedication to justice and equality. They are a reminder that regular people can bring about big changes. The Freedom Riders had succeeded in their mission, but more importantly, they had reignited the civil rights movement, inspiring a new wave of activism. The Freedom Riders weren't just people on a bus. They sparked a big change in American society. They stood up to unfairness even when it was risky, paving the way for future civil rights activists and leaving a lasting impact on U.S. history. The Freedom Riders dared to challenge the system, and in doing so, they changed the course of history. Their journey was not just a ride through the South, but a journey toward justice for all Americans. In memory of the Freedom Riders, your courage will never be forgotten. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. Drop a comment below, and if you are new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified of new videos.